David, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
I will. David Sott. I'm an Academy partner. Obviously, I'm here in Georgia right now, originally from Ohio. I'm also currently a member of the Partner Advisory and Management Board at the Academy. Over the past few years, as Alex will get through in the presentation, there have been a number of positive changes made in the auxiliary, AIM, and partner programs. So I think we'll get on with the presentation and then answer any questions.
Wonderful. Well, let's get started here. You just heard from Mr. Sott and Ms. McNamara. So welcome to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy Missions Partner Program webinar. This installment is focusing on the Coast Guard Auxiliary. As you can see by the crest there in the center of your screen, the Missions Partner Program serves as that link between the Coast Guard Auxiliary and the Coast Guard Academy. And we facilitate that relationship through the great leadership of Ms. McNamara and the past leadership of Mr. Sott. So we would greatly appreciate them. A little background on the program. The Coast Guard Auxiliary, as many of you are aware, was formed back in 1939. And in 1955, they began this prospect recruiting mission with the Coast Guard Academy. So that also included making all the selections and running the AIM program. So for a long time, not selections to the Academy per se, that was still the admissions job, but the selections to the AIM program were determined by folks being recommended and nominated and selected by auxiliary flotillas. And then it was a much smaller program at first, less than 100 folks, and then hovered right around 100 participants. It grew in recent years after the millennium up to about 300-400 people. And then in 2006, the director of admissions then was Ms. Sue Bebo. She established the admissions partner program as a way to kind of bring the recruiting mission back into the admissions office, making sure that the outreach and the message and the supply and the material and the outfitting was all being done by the admissions office. So she established the admissions partner program in 2006. And it was around that same time, a little bit before that, that we also took back the AIM program as far as the application, the selection for AIM, and running the AIM program. However, we still bring in about 48 to 50 volunteers every year, primarily headed up by two outstanding individuals, Mr. and Mrs. John and Carol Johnson. They're really wonderful. They help us solicit for volunteer support. Now, the volunteers that do come and participate, while there is a good chunk of them who are auxiliaries, there's a fair number who are all other makeups. So that's partner, parents, active duty, reservists. So there's really a wide swath of participants for that. And in today's partner program, auxiliaries make up about 235 out of 895 current active partners in our program. So that's about 26%. So that's right around our goal for participation. We like that participation with really the idea and the hope of getting also much more involvement from our alumni. So we like the alumni presence within the partner program to be strong. But of course, auxiliaries make up a critical component of this. And we really appreciate all the involvement that we get from them as well. So that's a little background on kind of the transition from auxiliary recruiting into the admissions partner and AIM programs. And also to know that there are still auxiliary missions within the AUX data system that kind of directly correlate to academy recruiting in general, not academy recruiting, and then AIM participation as well. So currently, the admissions partner program is established within the auxiliary. It has a component or what have you in the auxiliary manual itself, and then also is set in the superintendent instruction 1131.5. So if you're looking for information in the auxiliary manual as it pertains to the partner program, that's the manual 16790.1 and the current series. So that could be, I think you're up to what, current series G or H right now, David or Jean?
So.
Yeah. So, and then you'll see there the chapter 2 and chapter 10 both cover the emissions partner program and also the uniform items that correspond with the emissions partner program from the perspective of the auxiliary. If you look in the superintendent instruction, which actually establishes this program, we have all the uniform instructions as far as how the emissions partner program, the director of emissions, the superintendent wishes all of our emissions partners to dress and what uniform that they want you in when going out and doing the recruiting and outreach. So a little bit about the breakdown and chain of command, and I think this is a great slide to actually hand over to Jeanne, so she's to cover the auxiliary side of things, and then I'll cover the USCGA side of things. So Jeanne, looking down the list here starting at the Chief Director of U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Missions and Captain Scott, do you want to just quickly cover some of the basics here on the auxiliary side?
Okay, I'm having a problem actually seeing your slides. I can see you, but I can't see your slides.
Oh, okay. All right,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Well, I'll take it back then. So we start with Captain Scott, who is obviously Chief Director of Auxiliary. That is the gold side officer or Captain 06 who assists the Coast Guard in organizing all auxiliary functions. And then we move down to the Auxiliary National Commodore. Both of these individuals, Commodore Washburn and Mr. Johnson, should be at NACON. I know, Jeanne, you're at NACON right now down in Florida, so I'll be joining you there shortly. And then we move down the list here, and I believe Mr. Holm is still one of the Assistant National Commodores for ForceCom. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Sure.
Robert Holm.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, perfect. And then moving into our auxiliary human resources, you have your deputy director, which is Rear Admiral retired Joseph McClellan Jr. And he's fairly new to the position. And then below him is the division chief, Mr. Douglas Colwell, who most closely works with Miss JeanneMarie McNamara, who is our emissions partner liaison with the auxiliaries. And she filled the position that was previously filled by Mr. Sott. So below Jeanne, I know, Jeanne, you've assigned 2 assistant branch chiefs. Do you want to introduce who those are?
Okay, we have Tracy Schultz out in California covering the West Coast, and we have Ken Baggy, I think out of, I'm trying to remember if it's Florida or Georgia.
It's Florida.
I think it's Florida. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I think
David.
you're right.
And I have not run into them yet here at the conference. They, the early days of NACON are all classes to attend, so that's why I'm here early. They'll probably come into town tomorrow.
All right, perfect. Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get some time in the larger sessions later on to see everybody, and I know folks will be tracking me down. And then below are 2 assistant branch chiefs, which kind of between the branch chief and the assistant branch chiefs, the goal is to kind of delegate some of those communication authorities and help and assist in facilitating getting questions answered quicker and getting information up and down this chain of command quicker. You have all of your auxiliarist emissions partners, which is the remaining about 230 or so individuals that participate in the emissions partner program. On the academy side, we start with our superintendent and then down to the director of emissions, to myself, the associate director of volunteer programs, to our volunteer program support, Ms. Megan Grills. Absolutely fantastic resource, absolutely priceless resource. And together, kind of using these 2 chain of commands, we come up with this strategy of how to use this really invaluable resource, which is the auxiliary, to assist us with recruiting and outreach missions. So just to give you everyone a little idea of our chain of command here on both sides. Now, first things first, I know a hot topic for folks is uniforms. So in 2017, the Coast Guard Academy Superintendent, along with the Director of Emissions, Captain McKenna at the time, signed into policy that all emissions partners not on active duty or reserve status must wear the prescribed emissions partner uniform while performing recruiting duties. This was kind of in alignment with the other academies. If you speak to folks not in the ALO or Blue and Gold Officer programs, the ALO programs and the Blue and Gold Officer programs are actually active duty or reserve officers hired by Naval Academy, hired by Air Force Academy. But if you talk to folks in the Air Force, prop and wing, if you talk to folks that really, and this is sort of uncharted territory for some of the other academies to use their kind of auxiliary equivalents, if you will, or even alumni in some cases for your recruiting and outreach missions. But in many cases, they'll be in similar kind of polo. You'll see a lot of West Point folks that wear the polo. You also see a lot of other colleges, and that's something we were trying to mimic is in alignment with kind of common college recruiting practice is to have this standard professional look that really can't be confused with anything else. So one of the things we were running into is that when individuals were coming up to auxiliarists representing the Coast Guard Academy, and these were 16, 17-year-olds and their parents and their families, they were oftentimes a little bit confused as to whether or not this was an active duty person, an auxiliary person, whether they had any relation with the Academy as far as a actual active duty role, or if they had gone through the Academy. So for everyone across the board, from parents of cadets to retired military to our auxiliaries, it just made more sense to have everyone in this nice, clean uniform appearance, which has really been working out well. I love getting the pictures from everybody for our newsletters, and I love just seeing everybody out there on the world stage kind of representing us proudly. And you really do look sharp from our perspective, and we appreciate it greatly. I know the Director of Admissions appreciates it greatly. So there are two uniform options for auxiliaries when they're out conducting college-related, admissions-related events. And those can be anything from those interviews to college fairs to high school presentations to appointment presentations, whatever they may be. So the first is that informal uniform, and that's the blue admissions partner polo, khaki pants or skirt, and then for the AIM program, we assign shorts as well, just because welcome to Connecticut in July and August. It gets up to about 100 degrees here. Dress shoes or boat shoes, matching belt, and your admissions partner name tag. So I have a slide in a little bit that'll demonstrate some of those insignia that you would have available to you as well. If you're looking to do a little bit more of a formal event, maybe it's a congressional event and you feel that it's appropriate to be a little bit more formal, the auxiliarist blue blazer is also available to you. Now that's an item that the Academy does not provide, but I know that the auxiliarist does provide, or at least provides instruction on how to locate that. And along with that blazer, khaki pants, skirt, dress shoes, matching belt, an admissions partner name tag, and badge. And that badge, if earned, you'll see that in a little bit. That partner badge is a great insignia to kind of wear on that blazer with pride. It used to come in a patch form. All of those patches, due to old age, are kind of disintegrating. We have a great, and thank you very, very much for sharing your contact there. We have a great admissions partner pin as well, like you'll see in a little bit. At auxiliarist functions, so if this is a non-college fair, high school related event that's purely an auxiliarist function, whether it's a boat show or an air show, whether it is something to do with a city council and you're there at a parade or at an event for Veterans Day or Memorial Day and you're setting up a table and you're representing the auxiliary, you are more than welcome to still, represent and share the great name of the Coast Guard Academy. And you are absolutely authorized to your fullest potential to wear your auxiliarist uniform. So that at auxiliarist functions, on auxiliary events, your uniform is absolutely your right to wear, as long as the auxiliary asks that you're within your height and weight requirements and that you meet all the standards to wear that uniform and that it's presented professionally. But that's where that uniform is absolutely appropriate. And you can still wear that Coast Guard Academy insignia and those stripes if you've earned them from the admissions partner program. So I know some folks, as a benefit of becoming an admissions partner as an auxiliarist, you do earn those 2 stripes on your uniform, which is fantastic. We like to see that. We require that if you are to come into the admissions partner program, you must complete and report 3 events in order to earn both that badge and those stripes. So it's not just a sign up and automatically get. There is a bit of an earning process there and a qualification process. We want to make sure that you're committed to this, that this is something that is that you're in as far as all the best intentions. So that's what we require of folks, is in order to get your insignia and to get that badge, to complete and report. That's the important part, because if we don't know if you didn't report it, we don't know what happened, those 3 events. So with this, because I know it's a big topic, Jean or David, do you have anything to add in addition to my comments?
No, sir, nothing to add.
I was asked a question this week as to if a partner is no longer an active partner and has been removed from our list, should they return the badge or stop wearing the badge?
That's a great question. So as far as I'm concerned, and I know that when and it may require some follow-up to get the this is absolutely what the policy states. As far as I'm concerned, and what I've learned from my time in the Coast Guard is when you earn an insignia or you earn a badge, that is yours because of you earned it, and that's what you can wear on your uniform. It may shift positions on your uniform, whether it moves from the pocket up to the chest or whatever it may be. But in most cases, yes, you can continue to wear that insignia. You do not need to, regardless of whether or not you choose to wear it or not, you are absolutely permitted to keep it. You do not need to return those badges. They are yours. They're your keepsake. If you want to make a shadow box later on for the auxiliary, make sure it's in that shadow box front and center, proudly representing the Academy Missions Partner Program. Thank you, Jean.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And just so you know what we're talking about, this is a slide with the 2 pictures on it. One on your left, it should be your left, is the Admissions Partner Program identifying a badge. In order to receive this, like we said, you have to complete and report 3 events. Miss Megan Grills tracks those events. And if you have any questions as far as to how do I go about getting that, or I've completed the requirements, how do I get it, Miss Grills can also assist you with that as well. We have Ben Furl asked for the formal uniform in addition to the auxiliaries blue blazer, khaki pants. Does one wear a dress shirt and tie? So yes, I actually do have a picture on the next slide of one of our members wearing a dress shirt and tie. Typically plain white dress shirt. Some folks get a hold of Coast Guard Academy Coast Guard ties, or plain blue or striped ties. Those are absolutely fine. Those are appropriate to wear. I think if you really did need to dress it up, that's absolutely fine. I like to also see folks in the polo shirt with the blazer over it. I know that doesn't work for everyone's style, so if you believe that's an appropriate wear, then that's fine, and you can have the partner program badge and your name tag. So the name tag is there to the right, and that's the new style of name tag. The old Academy crest is no more on our admissions materials. The crest is a symbol that's owned by the superintendent's office on campus, and the admissions office will start to use this minimalist emblem that just has 1876, the crest, the eagle, the anchor, and USCGA. So that will be what the name badge looks like. It's magnetic, so it won't harm your clothes. Now the badge does have pins on the back, so we apologize there, but hopefully it doesn't cause too much damage. And then if you need to order any additional CGA materials, what you're going to want to do is you'll want to go to the ANSC Facility Auxiliary National Supply Center through your auxiliary websites. And then for the Academy, you can order Academy materials on JAD, which is our pick and pack website, or uscga.jadorders.com. Now, the ANSC facility does carry materials, and the plan from our marketing perspective from Sue Bebo is to provide some of our older materials to ANSC while we move new materials into JAD and the Academy side. So while the materials at ANSC are still relevant, they may be a little bit older, like 1 or 2 years. So please feel free to use those, get the information out, and really drive folks to the website. That's the primary goal there. Ms. J asks, I might have missed this earlier, but is the partner badge allowed to be worn on auxiliary trops? Yes, so if you're in your auxiliary uniform, SDBs or your trops, you are absolutely allowed to wear that badge. And I believe there is a portion of the uniform manual for the auxiliary that shows you exactly where to receive or where to wear that on the uniform. And then if you have the old name tag, or the name tag with the logo on it, or the old seal, we ask that you hold on to that name tag and keep using it. It's still a functional name tag. It still represents the Coast Guard Academy, and we'll be phasing in the new ones as we go along. So if it's an emergency scenario or you lose something, and please don't lose it on purpose, but if you lose something, then by all means, please reach out to us, and we'll make sure that you're well equipped and outfitted. Ms. Prado asks that it typically calls for gray slacks, and if that's the uniform standard, then gray slacks, by all means, go for gray slacks. And that I do agree that it could be a dressier look than the khakis. So please, if that's the Coast Guard auxiliary standard, then gray slacks in the blazer for admissions partner events. If it's a formal event that requires the formal auxiliary, gray slack and blazer uniform. All right, so here's an example of some of our folks out there dressed to the nines. Hopefully you can see. I know some folks said they're not getting the image of the slides, and it might depend on what type of device you're on. And I know I'm getting an additional question here. So Ms. Wright asks, I'll have a table and a tent and an air show this weekend, 2 full days, so about 16 hours of work. Does this count as only one event? So I know when you report events, you're going to report them by hours. So you can actually split it up. Since it's a 2-day event, you could probably split it up into 2 days and then report the number of hours over 2 days. So it would typically be 1 day, but you could do a part A, part B for that function. And really the hourly summary along with the cost of those hours is really what is going to make the largest impact. And that's coming up here in a little bit as well. All right, so you see Mr. Bill Key there. If you have the slides on your screen, proudly representing the admissions partner pin there on his pocket. I know it's worn in different locations for male and female trop and SDB uniforms, so make sure you check your auxiliary manual for those uniform requirements. All right, now after uniforms, we'll get into some event reporting requirements, which is an important part of this program, making sure that everyone is recording their events and getting all of the credit for those events. So with that, every auxiliary event summary is going to be submitted in 2 locations. So we greatly apologize for the redundancy. I know it's a pain. But for our purposes, we don't have access to the aux data system here in this office. And our largest tracking and recruiting software here is through Hobson's. So when you submit an event summary form at uscga.edu/event form, that comes directly to Ms. Grills, and then we're able to enter that and track your progress in Hobson's. So you'll have a note recorded in your Hobson's file, and the event itself will be marked as kind of complete and attended. If you're, and in addition to the event summary form, you'll also be filling out your auxiliary reporting requirements through the aux data system, which I found in 2 different locations. So David or Jean, I found the 7029 and the 7030. Maybe one of you can clarify what those are.
Yeah, the 7030 is really the main reporting form when you're doing either AIM activity if you're attending AIM, or the 90-A, the CB partner program. And that's when you do an event. You'll do it on your 730, and it will list the event and what you did there. The 7029 for those in the auxiliary is another form, and that's where you devote your hours for travel and preparation for the event. The 7030 is for time at the event only. I do have a site for those that are auxiliarists, the MyCGAux site. I do have a community of interest there for Academy partners, and all of the information for reporting, uniforms, etc., I have listed there. So if there's ever any doubt, you could just go to that site and you'll see, in some greater detail as to how to report your activity. When we look at the activity, basically the Hobson system is really the major source for your partner reporting. Auxiliary is secondary because that just goes to the auxiliary and your hours are accumulated there. Alex?
Thank you very much, David. Jean, do you have anything to add to that?
No, thank you for clarifying. It's also on the Human Resources website. The information is there as well. David put it up previously when he was in the position, and I've just freshened it up. But other than that, the information on how to fill out the forms and how to report is there as well.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So why is event reporting so important? Well, recognition is one of those pieces that we want to focus and capitalize on. And reporting hours on your end as an auxiliarist equals earning recognition. So if there's no reports and you're doing thousands of hours of work every year, we will never know. So in 2018, just to give you an example, this past summer when we convened an auxiliary awards board, we were able to hand out 76 letters of appreciation, 47 auxiliary commandant letters of commendation, 8 auxiliary achievement medals, 13 auxiliary commendation medals, and we did a new informal recognition process within the office for those members who have exceeded 1,000 hours of community service and have shown or provided a significant impact to the admissions office. We provided 9 admissions partner service awards. So those members are going to be etched and engraved on plaques that will remain in the office, and there's a perpetual plaque right outside my door that is for everyone in the office to view. We're going to be reviewing those lists every single year and inducting 10 new individuals a year into that service award. So this year saw the first 10. Only 1 out of 10 was not auxiliary. So 90% of our partner service awards went to auxiliaries this year, and it's really tremendous to be able to recognize everyone. For those formal awards that we gave out, auxiliaries performed over 29,000 hours to earn those awards, which is worth an estimated $653,000 in savings to the U.S. Coast Guard. So really incredible as far as the hourly and the monetary value that's really stems from your hard work out there performing these great missions across the country. And that's all we have. So I wrap it up with that kind of event reporting recognition piece, and we'll roll right into questions right on time, about 17:31 here Eastern Standard Time. So are there any questions for myself or our 2 guest speakers as far as auxiliary requirements, auxiliary uniform, anything as far as reporting or criteria to be an auxiliarist partner? When you're out there in the field and in your flotillas and folks are curious and they want to learn more, make sure that you tell them about this program. When they go online and register for this program, we are going to be screening every single auxiliarist that wants to be an admissions partner. So they'll go through the regular background check that we give everyone, but then Ms. McNamara will also be reaching out to them to make sure that, to learn a little bit more about their background and get a resume. And I know, Jean, do you want to touch a little bit more on that?
Well, just briefly that when you do log in to show your interest that you want to be a partner, the Academy lets me know who those people are. I then go into the auxiliary database to see their level of involvement in the auxiliary, because basically we don't want people who are doing this just to have another kudo next to their name. We want people who are going to be actively involved and engaged in the program. So we look for people who are involved, and once we see that they are involved, we then continue the vetting process by doing the background checks. Once the background checks are done, we then check or get the resumes and have the candidate the partner candidate answer a couple of questions as to why they want to be involved in the program. And from there, once all the background is done, then we look geographically on what the needs are of the academy. Do they need more partners in a particular area? And from there, then the decision is made as to whether or not you would enter the program at that time. And those needs do change over time, so that in case you were told that you're not needed currently, you could reapply in a year or two, and possibly the need has changed, and therefore you might be needed the second time. So do not feel that if you're initially rejected, that 2 years down the road you might fit the needs a little better.
Wonderful.
That's all.
Thank you for adding that, Jean. Pat Prado asks, for AUX emissions partners who are also AUX staff officers, much of their emissions partner work for as far as regional coordinator or state coordinator, non-event related, gets buried under AUX leadership and is not recognized as academy related. Is there any fix for this? So my recommendation for Pat, and my recommendation for all those folks out there who are struggling with the same thing, as far as, hey, I'm doing a lot for the emissions partner program from an administrative perspective, from a coordinator perspective, but less so from an event perspective. We also want to recognize those folks who are working hard kind of behind the curtain, if you will. So please make sure that you're kind of recording those times that you're spending in those coordination efforts and those administrative efforts, and kind of summarizing or estimating on a weekly or monthly basis how much of that work is getting done. I know perhaps David or Jean have other examples or other methods behind capturing that work as well.
Well, I think what she's referring to is the category. We have two categories for the general stuff on 7029. And I think, Pat, that you're referring to the 7029, the 99-A, which is where all of your stuff goes in for leadership. When the awards board reviews activity, we review Hobson and we review the 99A, and we review also the AUX state information. So 99A, 99E, we're also picking up, and so we are looking at all of the hours that you are reporting in there.
Perfect. That's great. Jean, did you have anything to add?
I was also advised by several IS officers, the people who enter the information into AUX data, that if it is directly related to the partners program, even though it is administrative, and David, correct me on this, but I was advised to include those hours in the 7030 under the 90 alpha code, because it is direct support toward the gold side operations.
That should be only if they're attending or representing us at an event on the 7030.
Okay. So mission related on the 7030,
right?
Admin and
on the other,
and leadership on the 7029.
And Jean brings up a good point, because as we find fine-tuning this thing as we're going along and refining it, and the AUX and the DIROCs, Captain Johnson is refining things. You're finding that in different districts they will do it differently, and that's what I think Jeannie's referring to. We found that, and we're trying to make that a standardized policy, but it'll take a while.
Great.
The other thing, we were informed yesterday at NACON that the gold side has gotten an infusion of money to fix or send in the direction of the auxiliary money to fix AUX data, either to create a new system. This is probably several years down the road, but the money is being allocated for it. And one of the things I'm hoping that we can get in the system is a code to identify the auxiliaries. So one, the IS officers know and can recognize who should be reporting those 9 alpha and 90 alpha codes, because we have people who are just not involved at all with the partners program reporting those hours, because they handed out a brochure about the academy, and that's not exactly what that code is for. So that's something I am, going to continue working. But we were told at NACON yesterday that that money is going to be allocated now to try to fix many of the problems that Aux data has.
Wonderful. That's great news. Well, we've come to the end of our time limit here, and really appreciate the input from Ms. McNamara and Mr. Sott. So, Jean and David, thank you so much for being here this evening. And thank you to everybody else. I will stick around a little bit afterwards, but at this point in time, we will conclude the presentation. I know, Ms. Wright, you added the 7030s only show U.S. Coast Guard locations, i.e. stations. So what do we put in for location? So do Jean or David, do you have a solution for that?
Yeah, I'll have to bring up the 7030. Go ahead, Jean.
Well, I know just in my geographic area, because we don't have an actual Coast Guard station in San Antonio, it accepts San Antonio. So our geographic location is accepting, and then it allows us then to put that under our sector, which is Corpus Christi. So that may be an option for the individual who's asking.
Yeah, usually it'll go to your sector.
Right.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much to everybody. That's the end of our presentation today. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.
Take care.